Hey, what's going on to you, Cancers? So, you Cancers have the Five of Wands, Queen of Pentacles, and the Six of Pentacles. So, the Five of Wands is about you Cancers basically like, enough with, forget about the Five of Wands. The Five of Wands is bickering and arguing and going back and forth and debating and, you bicker and argue so much with someone to the point where it's basically debating at that point. And a lot of you Cancer crowds are like, look, Queen of Pentacles, Six of Pentacles, enough with the bickering and arguing. Just do what it is that you got to do. And that's one of the things that keeps people lost in the sauce when it comes to getting anything done. It's the bickering and the arguing, trying to have someone concede to who's right and who's wrong. You get to a point where, you get to a point, Cancer crowds, where it's like, people strive to be right so much to the point where they make it more about having the other person forcefully say that they're right, or cater to them more than it's about living your life. So a lot of you Cancer crabs, now y'all are at a point where you realize how stupid and how useless bickering and arguing, kind of going back and forth on the other person is. You know what I mean? Like the going back and forth and the dysfunction and the playing games with them and wasting time, you know what I mean? Going back and forth with a significant other. You're done with that. Because what I'm seeing here is that you Cancer crabs was dating somebody fairly recently, if not recently. And like it is, I said before, you just got tired one day of the bickering and arguing. It's just always a story. So a lot of you Cancers are like, it is what it is. You're just going to move forward and move forward to get to know somebody that's much more constructive than you. Than them. But yes, constructive as you, or even more constructive than you. But either way, it's going to be more constructive and based upon trying to build a relationship more than it's based upon being dysfunctional with this person that wants to, that's wasting your time playing games, wilding out. So the thing about it is that the Nine of Wands and the Four of Pentacles is about, the Six of Wands, and the Four of Pentacles. Again, the Six of Pentacles, the Six of Wands is about moving forward, but it's about letting other people think whatever it is that they want. This person was trying to get you caught up in the ideology that you Cancer crabs, you were wrong because of X, Y, and Z, right? And if you listen to it, it would basically like them gaslighting you. And a lot of you Cancer crabs realize, you know what? That's what I was just talking about. You realize, like, you know what? This person wants to be right so much. Let these goofy people be right. Because it's exactly like what it is I was talking about earlier today in the Leo reading and in the Virgo reading, right? About how it is that you have two lords, in the sense that, the religion of Islam. I'm not talking about the Moorish spiritual creed. I'm talking about the religion, right? But it's separate from Moorish science. But the religion of Islam says submit, as to a Yeshua says decide. And that's kind of, in that sense, I'm on the side of Yeshua in the sense of, I'm not talking about the religion per se. No offense to anybody who is. I'm using it as a means of wisdom, in the sense that decide, in that sense, right? Like you Cancer crabs, you got to a point where you realize you can't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do. You know what I mean? There really is no point in that. And I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all Cancers. Like, that's the majority. I would say that's about 80 to 85% of the people on the planet right now, trying to get people to submit, right? You see it all online, talking about how so many people talking about this one and that one and this one and that one needs to submit to me. And it's like, listen, this is part of the reason why it is that, you got so much dysfunction, because of this Sharia law, trying to get the person to you know what I'm saying, trying to trying to get the person, namely you, to submit and be like a little pet and be like a servant to them, when y'all two are supposed to be in a relationship in the first place. So you're supposed to be, as a partner with them, walking hand in hand. But instead of doing that, right, you have somebody that you was with that wanted you to be their underling, to feel better about themselves. And the thing about it is that the Four of Pentacles now represents, so a lot of you Cancers understand that, and you are like, you know what, it's time for you to start focusing on yourself. But I will say though, Cancer, if you are focusing on yourself, focus on yourself from a sense of self-care, not from a sense of conceit. Because when a lot of people say that they're focusing on themselves, a lot of the times they're on some self-dysfunction stuff where they're usually talking about conceit, where they're selfish to the point of it doesn't make sense. But they're not selfish where it's a healthy form of selfishness, right? Because everybody needs to be selfish to a certain extent, right? But in a healthy way, right? Taking care of yourself and making sure that you good is a form of selfishness. And the thing about that is that you're really in a situation where you need to understand that that's the situation, right? Like you can't always expect to take care of everybody else. You know, this chair is not very comfortable. So you can't always be in a position where you're taking care of everybody. At some point, you have to learn to take care of yourself. And the thing about it is that the Eight of Wands and the Six of Swords is just about that, right? It's about how it is that, you know, you Cancers also have to understand that when you are getting to know others, right, you also have to understand what exactly, or get an idea of some of the things that you are getting if you were to actually start hanging out with them and choosing them. See, a lot of the times, especially when you are a person that is generous, right? When you're a person that's generous, and when you're a person that knows how to give, and you don't like sweat up about dysfunction, like you don't sweat your heads up about giving, because you know how to get something. You know how to make something out of nothing, right? You know how to build a race car out of this letter, right? You know how to make something out of nothing. Now it's like you don't really have to sweat too much, because you're a fisherman or a fisherwoman, in the sense that you know how to create, you know how to get, you know how to make something out of nothing. And that's the situation, right? Because when you give, people try to take advantage of that. So now a lot of you Cancer crabs now have, when you date, you have to really get to know the person, but also kind of find out some of the traits that they have. Like you know what I mean? Like what exactly can they bring to the table if the two of you are gonna actually hang out, you know, and get to know each other. And you got to get to know what would they do. This thing keeps slipping off, but you got to get to know what exactly they would do while being in a relationship with you. And the best thing for you to do is, while you're out hanging out with them, is to ask. Real talk, serious business, because that's how it is that you'll find out, is to literally just ask. Because if you don't ask, they're always going to be in a position, because this is about you and remembering what it is that you want. The Four of Wands represent, this is how it is that you'll have a better understanding, right? Once again, whatever it is that I say, get to know the people that you're hanging out with. I truly mean that. You know, ask them questions, find out what they're bringing to the table, find out the advantages that they bring to the table. You know, I'm loyal. Me, for instance, everybody knows their attributes. So when it comes to dating you, they have to state some of their attributes. And how you do that is by asking. See, a lot of times when people are getting to know each other, they don't really ask those questions. They don't. they just as soon as they get a chance, they run in the sack. But they don't actually ask, like, okay, what are you bringing to the table? What, like, okay, if you're in my life, how would you benefit me? You know, from a non-transactional standpoint. Do you understand community building? Do you understand that you and I are a community of two? And that, you know, and when I say me, I'm personalizing it, but I'm really talking about y'all, like learning from that example of you having to go out there and understand what a person is bringing to the table by asking them. And if a person, if a person doesn't want to answer that question, or if the answer that they're given is dysfunctional where, oh, I'm not going to bring anything because I'm the table or whatever, that's how it is that you know that they caught up with the programming. Because anyone who has the ears to hear and the eyes to see, that's not a very good answer, because you just told off on yourself that when a person would say that to you, Cancer Crabs, it means that they're not actually, when it comes to you, they're not bringing anything to the table, because they're letting you know that they're dysfunctional right off the rip. So it means that you need to run away from them, because the Knight of Cups and the Emperor represents, once again, once you've learned how to turn love into a science and relationships into a science and stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? Then it's going to become quite easy for you, because but then it's going to become quite easy for you, because a lot of you Cancer Crabs going to understand how crazy it is, right? How it is that, so many different things are kind of like stuck on repeat. And when I say on repeat, I mean, you Cancers are going to, a lot of y'all are getting very good at being able to sniff out the foolishness, the stupidity. So when it comes to interacting with individuals, you know good and well when a person is wasting your time or not. So a lot of you Cancers, you need to be wary about when people tell you goofiness, like, oh, they are the table and all of that. They don't know how to make that make sense. It's literally jargon. Like, when people ask me, like, for instance, right, and you could learn from my example. If someone would have asked me if I'm going out with them, like, okay, what are some of the things that I would bring to the table, right? Now, I have a huge laundry list of things that I'd be bringing to the table, right? Acquired a bunch of skills, trying to acquire more, higher level skills that pay me a lot. Some don't pay me anything, but I do it for survival, right? Good to have. Like, people who have my Instagram know that I done been to the pew, pew, pew range. So all of that is self-defense. I talked a couple of times about how, one day I'll potentially go to the Philippines and Japan and stuff like this. Learn how to do kenjutsu and learn different martial arts. That's a thing where people will go to Asian countries and learn how to fight. They call it a Muay Thai visa, right? So that's protection all on itself, right? As of right now, a little bit of money, not much. But even past that, the non-tangible things, loyalty, right? Respect, and unfortunately, that may not necessarily be good for some, but it's okay. They may be looking for cash. They may want somebody to lead with cash. But when somebody tells me, when I ask them, what exactly are they bringing to the table, and they get upset, or they start trying to downgrade what I'm bringing to the table, or start talking about how it is that they're not going to, sometimes they'll just admit they're not bringing anything. But, or for most of the times, though, they'll say stuff like they are the table. And it's like, you trolling, but at the same time, it's like, you Cancers gotta understand that that's a message from them, letting you know that they're in the game. This is what it is that I mean when I say that most people are in the game. Most people are factually in the game. You know what I mean? Let's clarify the Emperor. Most people, They're letting you know that they're in the game without breaking the fourth wall, in the sense that they're not conscious. They're not conscious enough to actually just tell you that they're in the game, right? Every now and again, they'll tell you that, right? They'll break the fourth wall, so to speak, and just be self-aware and just bust out of nowhere and just tell you that. But for the most part, people want you to think of them as being no light having dim-witted idiots. And they can be like that, but a lot of them, even though they're doing that, it's a contradiction, because they're doing it based upon their own free will. And what this have to do with you is you got to raise the bar, Cancer Crabs, about the quality of the people that you keep. Let's clarify the Emperor, because you can say and do something and try to raise somebody up and try to get people to do better as best as you can, but it's nil when it comes to them wanting to be dysfunctional. It's nil, right? So you have the Knight of Cups, the Temperance, then you have the Page of Cups, and then you have the Knight of Wands. So this is what it is I'm talking about. Like, you're putting yourself out there, but with time and the more you put yourself out there, the more you should learn, right? The only types of, put it like this, right? Kind of like a big hint. The only types of people who you should want to have around you for a long period of time are people that have real value, have high value. They actually bring a lot to you. Those are the people that you only keep. Everybody else is pretty much just cop and blow. And what I mean when I say cop and blow is, it's kind of like pimp talk, even though I'm not a pimp, nor would I ever want to be one. But I'm saying that it's game jargon for the sense of like, they're not going to be in your life for a long time anyway, because they're too dysfunctional to be. They're going to play the game and act and act like it's time for them to leave, and they're going to find some sort of stupid reason to do so. But once again, but they're going to come to the internet, cry, or they're going to, they can't get out of the game. You know what I mean? So the things that the Page of Cups and the Knight of Wands is about, and don't you Cancer Crabs going believing in your ex when it's time for you to actually leave, because I don't really see that you Cancer Crabs have officially left. Let me rephrase that. You Cancer Crabs have left, but you still attached to them. You still very much so talking to them. You still letting them know what's going on. You still allowing these people to get on your nerves. And what I'm trying to say to you Cancer Crabs is, you're going to have to excommunicate those people out of your life if you essentially want those people to be around. So if you essentially want more decent people to be around you, you got to excommunicate dysfunctional people from your life, because dysfunctional people don't necessarily scare off people with something to gain. But when people who have a lot to gain, regardless of how successful they are, hangs around distraught people, this is one of the things that I was going to talk about in my future videos. They have a lot of dysfunctional people around them. I mean, they end up going down with the dysfunction too, because they end up slacking off. They end up not really being on their game. They end up thinking about all the wrong stuff in the world, and that's not the stuff that you really want to do. So that's pretty much it. I know you Cancer Crabs got a lot to think about, but you Cancer Crabs really have to ask yourself, is it really best for you to still decide to hang around an individual that wants to do nothing more than just bicker and argue all day, and that's their level of excitement? Kind of boring to me.